as the wife, you're the one that's bringing things into the home. You're the one that's preparing the food. So I think the first thing is making sure that healthy is delicious and appealing, appetizing, from the way you're plating it to how it tastes, showing our spouse that that can be the way that it is. You know, it's not like you mentioned, just healthy tastes gross and unhealthy is good.
The Now That We're a Family podcast.
Okay, you guys, so we have a very fun episode today, and that is we are interviewing my sister, Kyla. So some of you guys are already familiar with Kyla. She's been on the podcast twice before. Maybe...
This is the fourth time Kyla's been on the podcast.
What?
Time?
Yeah, if I'm not mistaken.
I was even unaware of that. So.
That's amazing. Yeah, so we'll link some other episodes that we did with her down below. I love visiting with my sister, and I'm excited that you guys get to hear her today. We were best friends growing up. We still are. And Kyla has the benefit of being close with a lot of my sisters. I'd say a lot of my sisters would say Kyla's their best friend, which I think is really cool. And she was definitely that way for me and still is. Together, we started Now That I'm a Mother Health, and she now runs Now That I'm a Mother Health because Kyla has that benefit of doing things for longer than I do. She follows through, and I really, really admire that about her. And there was something I was going to mention. Oh, she's married. She's married to Adam, who's our brother-in-law. We have a lot of similar taste, had similar taste in men, because when we go someplace, people think that Elisha and Adam are brothers, and they do not think Kyla and I are sisters. Yeah. So anyways.
So that's why we had to dress in such a manner so people would know we're related.
Okay, yeah. We'll get into why we're clones in a second. Anyways, you guys have 3 kids. And Kyla, can you just tell us in your own words a little bit about your life right now?
Yeah, so we live in Lexington, Kentucky. We've lived there since we've been married, so about the last 6 years. And I get to stay at home full-time with the kids, which is awesome. I love that. And Adam owns a tech company back there. And we just bought a house in Bend, Oregon, so we'll be moving out to be with family. But our life is a lot of play dates and hosting and just enjoying the slow, simple life in Kentucky.
Yeah, so we're going to dive into this episode and ask Kyla a lot of questions about health. She is someone that I really look up to when it comes to health, fitness, food. She's an incredible cook and nutrition. And so we're going to dive into that. But before we do, if you're watching this on YouTube, give it a thumbs up. If you are listening via iTunes or Spotify or wherever it is, leave us a rating or a review, and we will thank you for that. Okay, let's dive in.
Okay, before we ask the first question, I do need to actually make more of a point of bringing out the fact that you guys are matching, because this is like a throwback. When I met you, both of you guys, I mean, you were what, 8?
Yeah.
You were 7.
Yes.
And I think for the first 10 years of knowing you guys, you would always match. And then you departed from that only for a couple of years when you were married. And here you guys are back at it, matching again. Pretty endearing, honestly.
We matched begrudgingly for all those years, and now we're doing it of our own. Yeah, I don't know. I'm still begrudging, but here we are.
So, okay, but this is the thing, is we do have similar tastes, because we're both here in Bend. We're both traveling. And how did we end up with these shirts?
Well, it's just so happened we're shopping together, and everything Katie tried on looked great on me. So therefore, we ended up just buying a lot of the same things and thinking, hey, we live states apart. Well, we won't ever be wearing them at the same time. But lo and behold, here we are in our matching sweaters.
Yeah, I had to tell Kyla, well, you're coming on our podcast, so you have to wear what I want you to wear. Yes. And I've always wanted to be Kyla's twin. Going back to when we were 6 and 5, Kyla always had bangs and I didn't. And Kyla has this she did. Pregnancy's made it curly. She had this really straight blonde hair. Mm-hmm. And I saw Kyla's haircut and I was like, Mommy, I want bangs, because we had these little matching dresses. And I was like, and then tomorrow we're going to be twins. So cut my hair in bangs and we'll be twins. So my mom cut my hair in bangs, and I have a cowlick in the front of my head. So my bangs do not lay straight without a ton of effort. And so as a kid, they just parted like a dork right in the middle. And the next day I woke up and Kyla wouldn't be twins with me.
Yeah, I left you high and dry, and I remember it, and I feel bad about it now, but I didn't then. I was like, too bad. You made a life-altering decision,
Yeah, like she wouldn't dress up, she wouldn't match. And here I just cut my hair to match hers, and it didn't match, and I had to live with that bad haircut for like 7 years while it grew out.
Yeah, Katie's told many stories about like her rallying the troops, or the troop if it were just you, and being fully convinced that you had her back all the way to the bitter end, only to like turn around when, you know, she was halfway down the trail and you had like pieced out.
I was constantly selling out. It's wrong. I know. You still took me along, and definitely, yeah, we were inseparable. She did not let it affect our relationship, which I'm grateful for.
Well, yeah, and me dragging you into things didn't let me upset. Didn't let you, our relationship get upset either. So anyways, all that to say, I was like, Kyla, we have the same shirts. Let's wear them on the podcast. And we have the same hats too. And Kyla's like, okay.
It's our moment to shine.
Yeah, I'm sure we could. I mean, I know we could probably do a whole episode of you guys reminiscing on childhood stories, which I know I would enjoy. Honestly, our audience would probably enjoy it as well. So maybe that'll be another episode for another day. But I do want to get into some of these questions. I'm not trying to be like a party pooper here, but I am curious to hear your thoughts, Kyla, on some of these questions that we both thoughtfully put together. And you know, something Katie already mentioned, Katie and I both admire the way you're so intentional about health and cooking, and honestly making, you make eating nutritious in a nutritious manner enjoyable, which I think is very possible. A lot of times people just don't go there in their brain. They're like, well, if I'm being healthy, then I'm not going to enjoy it. And then, you know, if I'm enjoying it, it means that it's not healthy. And that's not the case. I'm curious though, from the time it seems like that you've been married, you guys have been travelers. You guys have been hosts, like from the get. It seems like when we hear from you, you guys are always in a different state or country, or at someone's house, or having somebody over. And so I'm curious as to what, you know, cooking with intentionality, what that's looked like in the midst of travel and then hosting at a high frequency. Because to me, those can be things that really throw off a good routine. So what has that been like for you guys?
Yeah, I think the benefit of doing it often enough is that you come up with systems or habits that work for home, for travel, for kind of like that transient lifestyle. So one big thing that we do is supplementing. That's a big part of like, if I'm not going to be controlling the food, then I like to be able to control the supplements. Cause then I know that, hey, I'm filling the gaps if they're there. So, we have these like little granny, you know, the thing you saw your grandma open, the little pill containers
for like prescriptions,
for
usually?
all the prescriptions.
Yeah.
And I use that at home as well as when we're gone. So once a week I fill it up and put it right next to our toothbrushes. So at night we both take our supplements at home that way. And so it's really easy to take those with us when we go and put them right next to our toothbrushes by our kits. And then we don't miss supplementing. So that's awesome. That's kind of one way we found to bring health with us. And then as far as eating, I more recently read Glucose Revolution, but I think I always had principles from that as far as choosing what you're eating from what's provided, not just diving in on whatever's there, but just being thoughtful about what is my intake here? Because if you're doing it often enough, you can't just go all out and just, it's, you know, your once in a year trip, just go for it. And so, but I really like the way that Jesse put the principles of what you should be eating and the order you should be eating them, just easy things that you can take with you when you go and apply them, whether you're at a restaurant or somebody else's home, while still being gracious and enjoying what's provided and not being high maintenance.
Okay, so we'll link that book down below because I think it's phenomenal. But can you give some tips right now that, you know, in what order you eat your food, or how would you actually do this if it comes to a restaurant or if it comes to eating out at someone's home? How does that look like practically? Give a few tips because I know our listeners would love that.
Yeah. So savory breakfast is a huge one. You always can eat a savory breakfast. Even if very rarely is it just like you're offered a cinnamon roll for breakfast. And even if you are, I keep beef sticks in our diaper bag. So I'll eat that before I have the cinnamon roll and call it good. But at least I got something in my stomach, because the first thing that you're eating for the day is the most important because it's on an empty stomach. So your blood sugar levels are going to be affected the rest of the day based off of how you start your day. So that's something she makes a point of in her book, and something that I found to be really easy when you're out and about to choose eggs, sausage, cottage cheese, yogurt, try these things that will balance your blood sugar and keep you steady for the rest of the day. So you aren't starting that roller coaster, but starting off steady.
And I think something you were sharing with me too was like something like eating your salad first, or
Yeah.
like the order that you eat your food affects how much your blood sugar spikes. And the reason why we want to watch our blood sugar is because
I mean, it's what creates the craving and the hunger fatigue cycle. All those things are linked into our blood sugar. So also like fat storage and I mean, a lot of deeper things, immunity, aging are tied to our blood sugar levels. But most importantly, I feel like you're satiating, like that hormone that satiates you. And then your energy, so you aren't grabbing and cravings. So that's kind of what I'm looking for. And as far as eating your foods in the right order, you want to start with your veggies, a veggie starter, your salad, whatever's provided, and then eat your proteins, and then fats, and then whatever carbs or starches are there, or desserts. So kind of by eating in that order, it really impacts your blood sugar. She has some awesome graphics on Instagram where you can just real quickly see. It seems so simple and so easy to do. Like, would that really change it? Like, I'm eating the same plate of food, but it really impacts it. And I've noticed a huge difference in my, just really all the things that affects my sleep, my energy, since incorporating those things on a regular basis.
that's Voberg Music Academy. We are upping the price. The price is per family, per instrument. So your whole family can learn piano, or your whole family can learn guitar. If you have multiple kids, this is a great way to go. We have our kiddos learning piano on Voberg Music Academy, and they supplement Elisha's lessons with fiddle lessons on Voberg Music Academy. And so if you're wanting to try a new instrument or something like that, now would be a good time to jump in, because that price will be going up in March and won't be coming down again. We've added just a ton of new features, a ton of new live calls. Students are getting faster results than ever before. I was just talking to my sister, who's our piano teacher, and she was saying, she's like, it's so crazy, but my online students in Voberg Music Academy are now progressing faster than my in-person students.
Wow.
Which is pretty cool to hear. So anyways, all those new features are just incredible over there. We're so proud of them. So I do have a special offer, though, if you would like to discount it further for the first 200 of you that sign up. So again, that can be 200 families or 200 individuals. With the link down below, you'll get a 20% discount on top of the current pricing. So just want to let you guys know about that.
Awesome.
Yeah, I also do like how you pointed out, when we are making a point to eat healthy in our own homes, we don't get to control that when we go to other people's homes. And but you want to be conscientious of your hosts. And I love that this isn't like this all or nothing perspective. It's like, okay, well, what are they offering? Because you want to be polite, you want to be gracious towards the hosts. And so this gives you, it's like a tool. Like, okay, I've got a tool in my tool belt for when I'm in these environments. Like maybe when you're at home, you just wouldn't bake cinnamon rolls at all, or dessert at all. But then you're in somebody else's home and you're thinking, okay, well, the ingredients or the options that are provided, how do I optimize this for my health? Yeah, I like that a lot. But you were going to say something else?
Oh, well, because I read her book, but I never pulled out that point of what you're eating on an empty stomach first is going to impact the rest of the day. I didn't really think of it that way.
I always thought of it in regards to cravings, because people always talk about like when you break, I guess breakfast is, breaking a fast, but when you go for longer fasts, they're like, hey, make sure you're thoughtful about the first thing you eat after it, not just from a nutritional standpoint, but from a craving standpoint. Like you will start craving that thing a lot more. And so I've heard, and I've kind of done that as a way to kind of game, kind of almost play if like eggs are so good for me. I wish I just had more of an appetite for them, and so I'll break my fasts with eggs, and I think it does. But I don't know if that's related at all.
Yeah, totally. Look at that. You're being all thoughtful about it. Elisha's beat us all to it.
Well, I didn't even know if there was actual like nutritional benefits from it. I was like, I just want to change my appetite towards this thing, and that's something that I think can happen, is you can really change your appetite towards different foods. I know I have. And so like, why not choose your appetite or shift it towards something that's more advantageous to your health?
Yeah. And it is crazy. I've experienced that just from starting with savory breakfast. At first I was like, this feels a little uncomfortable. There was, yogurt was a real go-to because it's not real savory or sweet. It's just kind of it down the middle. And I mean, I've gotten to where I'm eating the craziest things for breakfast and it sounds good. Wow. Like, I'm like, let's eat some dinner for breakfast. Like I'll wake up with that. Like I could eat some roast or, just right out of the gate. And it's kind of bizarre. I didn't see that coming, and I don't think it's necessary, but it's just cool how your appetite does change. And so maybe that is kind of coming from that breaking your fast on something that's more savory and getting more and more used to that?
Honestly, in regards to, like changing your appetite, I'm sure that I'm not the only person that's gone into marriage only to find that my like dietary preferences were different from my spouse's. And so one, I'm curious as to whether or not you and Adam experienced that, both from like a taste standpoint, but then also just your concept of health, nutrition. So one, did you experience that? And two, like, what are some things you guys did to get on the same page, and something that somebody else, like a pointer somebody could take, whether or not, maybe the wife is more health conscientious or maybe the husband's more health conscientious. I just feel like that dynamic's got to exist a lot in marriages. And so what are some things you guys have done to get on the same page?
Yeah. So it was different for Adam and I starting out. I think we've really gotten to where we're on the same page now. So looking back, sometimes it's like, were we ever really that different? But it was. Just in case Adam's listening to this. No, but I think some of the things was, as the wife, you're the one that's bringing things into the home. Typically, you're the one that's preparing the food. So I think the first thing is making sure that healthy is delicious and appealing, appetizing, from the way you're plating it to how it tastes. I think showing our spouse that can be the way that it is. It's not, like you mentioned, just healthy tastes gross and unhealthy is good. Being able to kind of flip that on its head is important. And then also whatever is quick and accessible. So making sure that there's snacks that are going to be fueling, that are right within reach if your husband is a snacker. Because I know that was Adam. He wanted something quick and he had habits of grabbing things that were around his house before. And so it was real easy to replace some of those things with healthier options that still tasted great, and just make it a no-brainer for him. So he wasn't having to think about it, but I was kind of curating what was being brought into our home, what was being provided as snacks, and then how everything else was being prepared. So I feel like when you're able to control some of that, it can help make it more mindless for them, versus it's always great to talk about it and have a conversation about what your goals are and to invite them into things with you, and also be patient with the process, because, it takes time to change habits, and you don't want to be pushing them. I had to learn that the hard way too, of just like trying to push or force a change, of like, we aren't having ice cream in our home, or like, I can't do this. And then you have to be open and work together and give and take, obviously, as it works in a relationship. But by having those lines of communication open and then doing your best to make it easy, I would say is the best that you can do as a wife. Because it really benefits everybody. And often I think when you experience the benefits, or they start to experience it, it makes it more desirable and like, hey, I really want to come along this. I'm feeling better now, or I'm appreciating some of the things that are coming from this.
Yeah. So you have some recipes, a very few, but I mean, a solid handful, but small compared to all the recipes that you have over on nowthatimamotherhealth.com. You've created those. But what would you give listeners to, like, what are some healthy go-to snacks? What are examples of those? Because I'm sure, again, I'm curious.
Yeah. So if they have like a sweet tooth, I would make yummy balls. If they like something that's chocolatey, those are their homemade perfect bars are great when he wants a quick breakfast or something as he's running out the door. I also love to have, like I mentioned, beef sticks around, having cheese sticks. So if I'm getting anything that's like packaged or processed, trying to keep it those more simple type whole foods that you can still grab. Also like nuts and raisins sitting out on a bowl instead of M&Ms, or, something like that they can sit there and crack pistachios and have that satisfying like experience without it being detrimental to your health. So I feel like those are like some of the easy grab and goes we do around our house, and always having lots of fresh fruit around.
That's
stuff like
great.
that.
Yeah, those are great examples, because everything you just mentioned, it's funny when you started talking about how detrimental snacking can be. I'm like, oh man, that's definitely my Achilles heel, because Katie will cook 3 phenomenal meals in a day, breakfast, lunch, and dinner. And so I'm eating like awesome. But then it's like what I do in between those that is just totally like, having a negative impact on my health. And so when you said healthy snacks, I was like, I don't think that exists, because in my brain, snacking's fun, right? Like, and I don't associate fun with healthy and snacks. But then you said all those things. I was like, oh, I do like all those things. Mm-hmm. Those are great. And so when they're available and accessible, and Katie's actually done a really good job too in times past of having those. We don't live in a home right now, so it's like kind of tricky. Pretty much.
I was
all
like,
of our-
it's been a rough 9 months in terms of healthy snacks. It's like, what's in the ice chest?
I tell you what, she's been a trooper. The way you've cooked, the quality in which you've cooked, cooking over a wood stove and then being in different homes. I've been so grateful. But I'm saying that to say, when we had more of a normal kitchen, you were consistent in the Yummy Balls, and I forgot how much I enjoyed those. Because if I was like making a coffee in the middle of the day or at some point, I would want something to snack with it. And Yummy Balls, I love Yummy Balls and coffee. So yeah, great examples. Great examples.
Yeah, those are good. And I do think those recipes are on Now That I'm a Mother Health.
Yeah.
So we can link those, which will be awesome. What do you do if your husband doesn't have the same health priorities despite encouragement?
Oh, pray. You really can't do more than I say invite them in on what you're doing. Like, hey, you want to go for a walk with me? I'd love to talk with you right now. Make it about something else, but do something. Do you want to learn how to dance? It'd be so fun for us to have a hobby. On date night, can we go dance? Or, try to bring activity in and incorporate as part of your life as something fun, not necessarily exercise or something that they're maybe turned off to. But by trying to incorporate it just into your everyday life, that can be cool. And then also just talking to the Lord about it, because if it's something you really care about, it can be hard to let it go. And yet the Lord really cares about everything that's important and necessary to them. And if that's their health, then he'll be sure to convict them of it. So being able to it sounds, I don't want to sound like ultra spiritual or pull that card, but really I felt that way before, where it's like, that's all you can do. If they're not making good choices, is release it and let it go. And actually maybe even supporting them in that will give them the freedom to make different choices without feeling like they're giving up ground they didn't want to give or something like that.
That is so wise.
Yeah, that's great advice. Because I think of even, like you talked about, trying to organize an activity, rather than, because it's like, hey, you should go, telling your spouse they should go for a run is just kind of demoralizing probably, or just being like, hey, I can buy you a gym membership, right? It can be really demoralizing to hear that. But if you pick up a hobby together that is enjoyable, that in and of itself can be healthy, right? Like just moving, if you start picking off different hikes around your region, you're like, hey, let's try to get 12 hikes in this year, one per month. A lot of times you get excited about the thing, and then that motivates you to actually do extracurricular fitness, where you're like, oh man, I want to be in better shape so that I'm not winded when we're playing pickleball, or I want to be in better shape so we can do the bigger hike with me carrying the kids on my back. So I think that's a great encouragement and great advice in regards to just doing more activity with your spouse in a way that's not nagging or nitpicking or even criticizing them.
Yeah, that's really good, Kyla. Well, just even as you're saying, don't set it up so that they're giving up ground they didn't want to give up. Support them in the habits they currently have. That just, I don't know. It just makes a lot of sense.
Yeah, well, I got to experience it firsthand and learn maybe from a lot of mistakes in that, but it was neat to be able to see that hey, when I let go of these things, it's wild sometimes the transformation that takes place that you didn't see coming.
Yeah, and it's wild what Adam eats now and is stoked about, and I'm just amazed.
Yeah, not that he was ever grossly unhealthy or didn't care. No. He cared and was mindful, but I think he had habits and just we came at it on two different planes for sure.
Yeah, well, I would say the same thing of Elisha. We both are on the same page mostly, and we both have our. He cares, but also Elisha can eat whatever he wants and still look great. So I think there's
not anymore. I think I could I was I mean it until 2 or 3 years ago. It changed.
Yeah, well, it's not like me that's going up and down in weight and has to be more conscientious. You know what I mean? I think I have my hang-ups health-wise, but I feel like I have to be more conscientious because of the pregnancies, if that makes sense. And so, sometimes we'll get off on different trails because of that. You've
been really just, I guess, patient and helpful in my health journey, and it is a journey that we're still on. I'm already inspired just in this conversation because I think something that I forget about is feeling good. Not that I walk around with chronic pain or chronic fatigue, but you will forget that you felt better before and that you had more energy at some point in your life, and that is something that is I'm remembering as you're saying these things. It's oh, that's right. Lifestyle really has a dramatic impact on your overall health. Like so much of how we feel is based, like, yeah, is it genetic? Of course. Is it environmental? Of course. All those things are real, but much of it is lifestyle related, like what we did 48 hours ago, 24 hours ago, last week, And so that gets me really excited to remember how much control we actually have of our physical well-being, and it affects our mental well-being as well. So you've been really patient with me, Katie, along this journey. And I know we both are motivated to continue improving, but something that I think I can, I don't know if this is a guy thing or not a guy thing. But because Adam was a college athlete, right? He's been a competitive athlete much of his life, playing, basketball and then other sports as well. And I was, I never played in college, but same, I was a competitive athlete in high school and loved competing in sports. And so then transitioning from, that to like that was healthy to me. I'm like, that's what, exercise is. It's for the point of a sport, or it's for the point of, being able to compete at a higher level. And oftentimes, I've seen anyways, and I think I've been tempted to do this myself, is that people that were high level athletes at some point in their life, it's like if they're done with that sport, they lose all motivation or like incentive to stay active. And I think that's something you've done a really good job of, Katie, is just like keeping our life in such a way where I'm always moving, getting us into hiking, getting us into skiing. And so I think, and I don't know if that was something that you guys experienced as well in your home, Kyla.
Yeah, definitely. I mean, it's something that we both come along in. And I think the more you're carrying with you, the more you realize, like, I want to stay in shape to run around with the kids, to be able to, like, there's just more stuff you're bringing with you, or children. And I think I was out pushing the kids the other day, and I'm like, I'm pushing 3 bodies right now. Like, I've got to, if anything, my fitness level needs to improve, not decline here with having kids. And I think Adam and I have both felt that.
Wow. That's so good.
Okay. Sorry.
What were you going to say?
Well, I was going to move to something else.
Okay.
If you have something else to say,
no,
go ahead.
Yeah, no, we can move on.
Sorry.
No, are you kidding me?
Okay, I was thinking in terms of children, because this is another area that I really admire you in, because your children eat so well, and they eat anything. I mean, I'm sure they have their things they don't or will bulk you on, but it's like, I'm not actually sure about that. So like you make, so we were just living in the same house for weeks with my parents, because you guys are out from Kentucky. We're down from Idaho. It was like this big communal living situation. And fun. It was like multi-generational living, Grandpa's there.
Right.
And it was honestly awesome, but it was crazy. And so we'd both make our kids lunch, and I was just amazed at what your children would eat without giving you a hard time at all. And so how do you cultivate that desire in your kiddos to eat anything? And I'm saying this is when their cousins, aka my children, are sitting right next to them eating like toast, And so how did you cultivate that and not have these picky eaters?
Yeah, I think it starts with, if you're able to breastfeed, eating a varied diet yourself when you're breastfeeding is great, because it exposes them to a lot of flavors really young. So that's what people say. And I have to believe that helps a little bit, because I know that I enjoy a wide variety of things.
That makes sense.
Yeah. And so I think maybe that helped start right from the get. And then also, realizing that it's like anything where it takes intentionality at the beginning. You're laying down the tracks, you're cultivating, and maybe training their taste buds. So, I mean, if my daughter is going to just start eating hard foods, then I'll give her zucchini and banana. I know she loves banana, but zucchini not so much. And she doesn't get the piece of banana until she eats a piece of zucchini. And it takes longer. I can't just put food in front of her. But with each of my kids, I've tried to make sure that they're intentionally, right from the beginning, eating things that they maybe aren't fond of, and they need to try it a few times and they spit it out, and you just keep working and having that patient kind of back and forth until they're able to ingest things that maybe they weren't so sure about and actually grow a taste for them. So I don't think I've done it perfectly, but it's been something that I've at least put intention into, is from a young age being like, hey, it's really easy to give them, crackers, cheese, and just when we're busy, it's easy to put stuff that's easy for them to eat by themselves. But if you take a little extra time to give hard things that they don't necessarily enjoy, and kind of actually see it as a training session, I'm training your palate, that they actually grow to really enjoy those things and be down for them later down the road. So,
have you ever read the book French kids eat everything?
I haven't, but it sounds fascinating.
Well, it just sounds like your whole philosophy is imported from France. No, something that really stuck out to me in that book is, I guess, I'm not French, so this is probably stereotyping the French. Let me know if I'm wrong. I think we have listeners in France. If you don't, French parents believe that if a child keeps spitting something out or doesn't like it, they just haven't tried it enough times. So they say it takes 7 or to 12 times of a child trying something for them to like it, if it's not a highly palatable food.
Yeah.
So anyways, as hearing that in your philosophy, I'm like, oh, that's fascinating.
Yeah. I mean, I think familiarity is a huge reason we find comfort in comfort food. It's just that we're like, oh, I've done this before. I recognize that. And being able to do that with a wider array of foods is just helpful long term. And then obviously you want to be able to steer them down a healthy path, right? You don't want just novelty and just variety. You want it to be something that is nutritious as well. And I'm curious as to how much of this has been because on one hand you could say, oh, it's a cooking thing, or it's the cuisine that we're providing in our home. But how much of it do you feel like it's just like a parenting thing, where you're thinking, okay, like you already said, this is a training opportunity for their palate. Were there those sessions that just went on and on and on? You're just like, okay, you're not getting dessert, or you're not getting any more of the dish that you like until you finish whatever the thing is that they don't want to finish. Is that how you guys would approach that, or is it not like that at all?
Yeah, they have to eat everything on their plate because I serve them and I don't give them a huge amount, but they have to finish everything on their plate before they would go back for something they might enjoy. And then also, if they didn't finish, if they're having troubles with something, I might save it and we're going to come back and try it again at the next meal before we launch into whatever else we're eating. So there has been some of that, not a lot of knockdown, drag out long. It hasn't been an emotional experience. And I think there's almost like a healthy peer pressure or expectation as soon as Coco got started, where when it's Coco and Harvey together, they both have different foods that they really enjoy, and they see the other one eating maybe what they don't prefer, but they know they're going to have to eat it anyways. And there's things that they really enjoy that the other one doesn't. They're like, oh, that's kind of too bad for you. But they don't mind, as far as they see it happening, and they realize that there's a consistent standard that is expected. And they aren't allowed to just, that's gross. It's like, this isn't my favorite. And that's okay if it's not your favorite. We're going to eat a little bit and then, carry on to something else that you do enjoy. And just, it hasn't been a big deal or become a source of too much contention, which I'm grateful for. And I'm not really entirely sure as to that. But yeah, I do think it's partially a parenting thing. And then also partially just getting to set the feast and let them explore new tastes and stuff, and showing them hey, this is cool. This is fun. Let's try this. What do you think about it? So I'm trying to really expose them to fish, because I wasn't exposed to fish, and that is an area where I have a hard time eating fish that's not salmon. So that's something I'm working with my kids right now. I'm like, have some shrimp. Let's try ordering this for you and just give it a shot.
Nice.
That's good. Yeah. None of us grew up eating seafood in our family, because our mom was a big believer that seafood was evil. So
I think it was probably the bottom feeders, right?
The bottom feeders.
Bottom
That's what she'd always
feeders.
say.
Right.
The bottom feeders.
Yes.
So we ate salmon because that was good, and we ate tuna,
Yeah.
Nice.
and that was pretty much it. And so, anyways, that's an area where I want my palate to grow too. I like that though, kind of viewing food more as this adventure to take your children on, and be like, hey, we're going to adventure with our palates, instead of just being like, oh, this is what you naturally like, this is what you naturally do. Because you think of it, we don't really do that in any other area with our kids' lives. Or if we're doing that with their lives and our lives, where it's just like, oh, you naturally want to sit on the couch, you naturally don't want to do anything, it's just not a real inspirational life. In any area of life we choose to just do that in.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's a good point. And I mean, you bringing up the fact that once your oldest child is they really do get to set the gauge and the trajectory for, it's not like it's automatic with everyone else, but it does have a great influence on everyone else. And just not probably again, I know that some children have different dietary needs or restrictions, I should say. But as best as you can, not accommodating each individual palate ever probably from the beginning is something that is really helpful. I know it's helpful in our home.
Okay, so you mentioned peer pressure. Do you ever have the kids have peers outside that aren't eating how they are, where it's affected them?
We have a lot of people that are around a lot of times that don't want to eat or don't have they run their family differently when it comes to eating. That happens, and we come across that a lot.
Yeah.
And it's always just, this is what we do in our family, so this is what we're gonna do. This is what we're gonna do for me and our house. Like, we aren't gonna judge people for what they're gonna do. That's fine. If their mommy might still be working with them on that, or she might not care, but I care, and this is what you're doing. So just allowing for that freedom of different parents are going to parent differently in a lot of areas. And so, yeah, but we've had conversations about that, of like, more so like, he's not eating that. Why is he not eating that? And, maybe like some concern. And it's like, well, it's up to his parents.
Yeah.
Because he's the loser.
Yeah.
Let him be.
Yeah. In regards to peers or other people, you guys, and this is almost more of like a hospitality question, honestly, and more than like a nutrition or cooking. I mean, yeah, cooking is included in it. How have you gone about preparing meals, maybe even on a last minute spontaneous basis? Because that seems to be, you guys seem to have a lifestyle that is, even though you have structure in your home and you've got consistency, there's also a lot of spontaneity. And again, we've only visited Kentucky a handful of times, but just like from what it sounds like, you guys have a very open door to a lot of people.
You're incredible hosts.
Yeah,
We know
very
that.
hospitable.
Thank you.
And so how do you manage that from like a cooking standpoint of being prepared, being ready to pivot? If you had a meal plan and all of a sudden you got like, what does that look like from a meal prep standpoint, from a grocery, shopping standpoint? How have you managed that?
Yeah. So I feel like if there's anything for me, the way I operate is it's easier to alter a plan than to not have a plan. So I actually plan well in advance and extensively. I want to make sure that every ingredient is available and I have a good idea of what we're going to eat. And then it feels like it's easier to expand that of, hey, I already have meat thawed. We have more people than I expected. What are ways that I can twist this to make it accommodate more people versus going from scratch being, I'm going to create a totally new meal that would I have a couple meals that I have like pantry meals that I can just pull out, but they're not usually something that I want to serve guests.
Okay, so what would those be?
I love to do chicken taquitos those are on the website. We're having a last minute lunch, or chicken salad sandwiches are another one. Pastrami sandwiches, because I always have sourdough made and lunch meat keeps for a while in the fridge. So things like that I can just like pull out on a whim. But I don't love serving that to guests. So usually I will try to find to alter some way by adding another side in, having the children eat something else. I will often do that with our family, be like, hey, and then it feels natural because other people don't know what your kids are up for eating, but by providing some kid-friendly options of like, hey, there's peanut butter and jellies down here for the kids with some orange slices and veggies, and this is the more gourmet adult meal,
Wow.
So that's kind
That's
of
good.
one way I'll open up for more people on the original plan.
Wow, those are great tips and great insight. I mean, I even, just as a principle for life, I think it is easier and more beneficial to your life to alter a plan rather than have no plan at all. I think we're so prone to this all or nothing mindset when it comes to making plans in any area of life, where you're like, well, unless I can follow it to a T, what's the point in making it? Then I couldn't agree more. Having a plan is actually more advantageous to any area of your life, even if you have to alter it. It's way easier and way more effective. And then I love that, like you said, well, then if you already have the meat thawed, okay, we're just going to pivot from there. Because I think what we've ended up doing, and I'm not throwing you under the bus here at all.
No.
Because
I have not done this. I try to completely recreate the wheel.
Exactly. And
When you said that, I was like, that's exactly what I do. And it's like a panic moment.
Yeah.
Like, I don't know what to do.
And you're crazy gracious because I'll spring stuff on you some point and you'll have had dinner planned and you were ready for it. And then somebody's coming through where we need to, have 3 times the amount that you were going to prepare. And yeah. And like, it's always been, again, it's always insensitive when I do that, but it's always been like, we're spending extra money because it's like, okay, well, we're getting pizza or something, or
usually it's, hey, on your way home, can you grab these groceries for me? Or I'm running to the store to grab groceries and then we're late. Like when guests are arriving, I'm scrambling because I'm like just coming home from the grocery store and like bringing groceries in or something, or you're doing that, and so it hasn't been a good vibe for us.
Last minute guests are challenging, especially if it's for a lot. Like I think, but also I do try to make leftovers. Just if it's Adam and I like having leftovers to make my life easier for lunches and whatnot. So it feels like we can open it up. We usually have about twice as much as we needed already. So, but if you're doing 3 times as much, you might not be able to. You might need to totally create something else because, 3 chicken breasts only go so far or something like that if you really didn't have enough.
Yeah.
But
Wow. That's really
yeah,
good.
Great insight. Great tips. It's fun.
Okay, so I'm curious too, on Now That I'm a Mother Health, we started it around supplements and then it branched into your expertise, which is recipes. And so what do you do as a mother with 3 children? How do you supplement currently using Neolife supplements, which is what we've both taken? And I say Neolife because we both take, my mom started taking them 25 years ago now, our mother. And she had 11 kids, started them on her 5th pregnancy or 6th pregnancy. And I wish I could post that video of her like jumping on the trampoline with the towel on her head. I was just showing that to Elisha the other day because she's almost 60.
Yeah.
And the vitality she has is nuts. And so anyways, all that said, Kyla and I were like, hey, we aren't going to recreate the wheel. We're just going to do what our mom did because we've never seen anyone with better results.
Yeah.
So hopefully it all works out. So far it's going fine. Splendid. So what do you take though on a regular basis?
Yeah. So I am taking the Pro Vitality Pack, which is those base 4 supplements. I take Phyto Defense on top of that right now because we've been in cold flu season. And to be honest, I have been loving not being sick so much that I think I'm just going to go ahead and continue this and like add it in as part of my regime. I know mommy did at a certain point, and I think I'm at that point. Like it's really great to feel bulletproof. Like we've just been around so much sickness recently. And I just feel like I've gone through unscathed while helping other people out and just being, like we said, in close quarters with a lot of people around where it seems like it was inevitable. So I love that Phyto Defense. And then I also take vitamin E because we have a tendency for varicose veins. It's in my mom had them really bad, and I just want to try to get ahead of that. So I take that kind of for vascular support and endurance because I am anemic and really struggle with energy and iron levels when I don't take that. So those are kind of like my all the time go-tos for this season, but I'm not pregnant and I'm not directly postpartum, in which case it kind of shifts a little bit. So
what would you recommend if someone's pregnant or postpartum?
If they're pregnant, I would still do Pro Vitality and endurance if you're anemic at all, or a lot of people will find, even if they weren't before, in pregnancy they are. And then also I love to add in Cal Mag, and I will take that actually pregnancy and breastfeeding because I feel like it only makes sense if our milk is rich in calcium that I'm the one getting depleted. So I try to replace that. And it helps a lot with cramps, like restless leg syndrome, headaches, these things that can kind of plague us when pregnant. Those are some of the things that I like to add in. I'm trying to think if there's anything else. I usually like, and then postpartum, I always do extra salmon oil. So there's one in the Pro Vitality Pack. But as far as whenever hormones are in question, even during the first trimester, sometimes I will take extra salmon oil because it really helps balance mood and eliminate any postpartum depression or anxiety. And the last thing is first trimester stress pack because it really helps with energy and nausea. So I'm really a big fan of that, but I only take it during those 3 months.
Yeah, same here. I just take it initially.
Yeah. I think I'm more like hyper about you ordering the stress pack anytime we think we might be getting close to pregnant. I'm like, this is night and day difference in the nausea, especially.
It has been for the last pregnancies.
Yeah. And so
huge.
I'm grateful for that one. Also, we've just added Phyto Defense to our regimen because it's actually insane that you guys have not gone down with sickness because we have been like we talked about, we are in this commune, living under the same roof with.
There's like 40 of us.
Yeah, there were probably how many were there? 40 people. I mean, there probably were 40 people living in one house, and like everyone was going down with sickness, and then people were dropping by nonstop visiting,
sick.
And they were all sick. Everyone was sick everywhere we went, and that's kind of been. It seems like it's been going around the whole world. Honestly, it's like the whole country's sick right now.
It's like mommy didn't get sick, daddy didn't get sick. I mean, they supplement like It's going out of style.
Yeah, they supplement like crazy. And Adam and myself, we were both
you
kind of
guys
looking at each
didn't
other,
get sick at
high-fiving
all.
every night. We're like, let's go. Like, praise the Lord. But also, Phyto Defense is awesome. Like, we need to be on this all the time.
Yeah, we didn't travel with any of our supplements. I packed them all up, put them in a container, which was like the dumbest thing. Guess who got sick? Me. And so you guys and Mama bailed us out. We started taking Phyto and Pro Vitality and garlic, alum complex, and it was like a day. We pulled right out.
Yes.
And same with Lyman, because that's the other thing. He got this chest cold. I don't know if it was RSV or not because we didn't take him in. But like, yeah, coughing up mucus. And he's only 5. He was 5 weeks at the time, so it was kind of scary.
Yeah.
But it's like a day after I started supplementing, he was getting better. And it's been, I don't know, only like 3 days. It's completely gone.
Wow.
It's just wild. And he had it for what?
Yeah,
2
like,
weeks,
yeah, long
10
time
days,
leading
yeah.
up to it. We were concerned for him. It is
crazy.
amazing, and it feels like such a blessing. I love when I'm breastfeeding my babies, and I get to take all this good stuff and just know that it is like building their brain, building their immune function. Just they are getting the best, and it really does. Like that's a really cool case study. I was like, wow, that's amazing to see you go from like not taking it to taking it, and just seeing the immediate reaction in him. Very cool.
So
that is huge. Because I mean, yeah, and I actually just go backing way up. That is such a great tip too. Are those like what people use for prescriptions usually? Those containers, because
Yes.
we had just we had a system at home, and then we had everything else, which was like hitting our supplements 20% of the time or something when we were on the road because it was no routine. But that is great because it's basically the exact same system whether or not you're at home or on the road. And so really awesome tip there. And then just because there's overall health and vitality where it's like, okay, just my normal baseline is, what is your normal baseline, right? Is it healthy or is it not? But then there's just straight up sicknesses that come through and they can wreck you. Like the saying goes, when you have your health, you have 100 goals. When you don't have your health, you have 1. Because it's like, that's all you can really put your time and energy towards when you're sick is just getting well before you start thinking or considering anything else in life.
Well, and I think of it too. I mean, we're just like talking too much here, but I hadn't gotten the flu since I was 19 up until this last year in the tent because I wasn't supplementing in the tent.
Wow.
I was like really hit and miss. That's my first time I got the flu.
Yeah.
Because it's the first time I was inconsistent. Anyways.
Convicting.
Yeah, it is. It's really convicting.
Habit worth building for sure.
Yes. I do want to let our listeners know, if you're curious, I don't know. I'm like really serious about, I don't want to recommend supplements to you guys. Like don't go out and just take calcium, okay? Because that can actually be really harmful for your body.
Or fish oil while you're pregnant.
Exactly.
Yes.
Yeah. That could be super harmful, tons of heavy metals, tons of toxins. So specifically, you can go to Now That I'm a Mother Health and see why, our calcium has over an 80% absorption rate instead of an 8 or 9% absorption rate. So you aren't having to deal with the toxins in your body.
It's also mixed with D and magnesium. So that also helps with absorption, but it also balances like what you need. You need them together. If calcium just of its own accord can actually, it can calcify and like actually become a problem. But in like that concoction, it works really well.
And then with the omega-3,
yeah, it's tested for over 200 toxin with an allowable detection limit of 0. So there's no heavy metals and it's safe for breastfeeding and pregnancy, which most of them have a warning saying, don't take this if you're pregnant or breastfeeding. And it really is such a necessary nutrient for a baby. So what a bummer. And it's just so cool that Neil Life has all 8 omega-3s and it's totally pure. So
yeah. So anyways, that's why we do this together, because we're true believers and we have been because we grew up this way. Again, it was our whole childhood. It was hearing comparing supplements. We just compared supplements a lot and we still compare supplements that different people bring us. And we just haven't found anything better for mothers, anything safer, anything pure. So anyways, if you wanted to know like, okay, what would you take first trimester and why? What would you take second trimester and why? Like broken down, what would you take if you had, I don't know, what are some of the other things we cover on the site?
Oh, I mean, like adrenal fatigue or diabetes or anxiety, PCOS, stuff like that.
Yeah, those are all broken down on the website. So I'll link that down below if that's a helpful resource.
And you can always reach out to Now That I'm a Mother Health at Gmail too. If you have something like, hey, I don't see this on there, but I'm curious about, such and such. I monitor those and can try to get you an answer.
Yeah, I was going to say that's where Kyla comes in, because when I was in charge of getting back to people, no one got back to her. You know, it was like 1 out of 10. So anyways, but Kyla's incredible at taking care of you guys, answering your exact questions. We're probably going to flood her after this. So, but
Yeah.
she does a great job.
Is that your preferred means of communication? Is the email, now that I'm a mother, health@gmail.com?
Yeah, that's great. You can also reach out over on Instagram through direct messages, but email is awesome. Maybe a little old fashioned there, but love that.
Instagram's now that I'm a mother.health.
Yes. If you direct message there, I'll also get to that. So whatever you prefer.
Yeah.
Awesome. Cool. So then any other things we need to cover here, guys? You think?
I don't know.
Yeah, this has been fun because, like I said, I thought you guys would forget about the first time they were on the podcast, because Adam and Kyla were on the podcast very early on when we were at the Simon Roadhouse, the guest house.
Oh,
They came on.
that's
and
right.
Do you
In the
remember
upstairs
that? See, I knew you guys
room.
would have forgotten
that
about
was
that.
like one of our first 10 episodes,
Yeah,
wasn't it?
exactly. Yep.
Okay, I do remember that.
Yes, and then you've been on with Katie, and then you've been on with Caroline, the
That's
sisters.
right.
The sisters
And then
episode.
Adam did an episode with you.
Yes, and then Adam and I have done an episode. So we should probably here in the near future do an episode with you and Adam together again.
That'd be so fun.
Yeah, we should, because we talked a lot about health and cooking, but I feel like there's a whole assortment of things we could talk to you guys about.
Well, we do.
We do, exactly. Yeah, or that's a whole assortment of things our audience would like to hear us discuss.
It's funny. We've talked about like vacationing with other families. We're like, well, we wouldn't vacation with any other family. And then we're like, except for Kyla and Adam, we've done 2 week-long vacations with you guys and just had so much fun.
Yeah, it's been a blast.
Yeah, really grateful. I mean, yeah, Adam's one of my best friends, and he's my brother-in-law. It just seems unfair. It's like, that is such a cool blessing for me.
Yeah.
And our kids are best friends. And I mean, I say sometimes like not everything's rainbows and butterflies, but I do think our friendship is. So
For sure. When we're together, it's really sweet. And I really hoped, because we were so tight growing up, and I just hoped that our husbands would jive and then our children. And so it's really like a dream come true, getting to see it be even better than I had hoped.
Wow,
yeah.
That's awesome. Cool. Well, Kyla, thank you so much for taking the time to talk with us.
Thanks for having me.
I know you got kiddos you need to get back to. We'll get back to our kiddos. And guess what? We get it all through dinner tonight. So
Yeah,
it's like
let's go.
Yay.
All right, folks. Thank you all so much for listening. We'll talk to you next time. Bye-bye.
Bye.